to make it work. But here we are, Doom the Dark Ages. I played through Doom 2016 and all of Doom Eternal and the Ancient Gods Part 1 and 2 right before playing this. So we should be as Doomified as possible going in. So let's get into this and let's have some fun. I'm enjoying the aesthetic already. The menu kind of reminds me of like a lot of middle-age type games I've played. Also, the Slayer looks pretty sweet with his shield, and I like the aesthetic of his big wool cloak, or of his fur coat. It's pretty neat. I've heard a lot of people have had complaints about the game, so I'm curious how it's gonna pan out. We actually get to see the monsters terrorizing people. I like that change. That's good. That's a good change from just seeing the aftermath. Pretty short and sweet intro. I liked a little bit of setup we get with the different characters we meet. I've heard people complain that there's a lot more story in this game than the 2016 one, and I was like, I think as long as it works for the setting, I don't think there's actually a problem with that. I can run to them immediately. That's neat. Oh yeah, smashing. Smashing. Alright. How far away can I do this? Okay, that is a helpful boost. The game seems atmospherically sort of reminiscent of like other sort of like middle-aged type of games that have sort of come out in the last couple of years. Like I haven't played a whole lot of it, but it kind of reminds me of Vermintide in a little bit. Like a little bit. Just given the way it sort of works. But, yeah, one thing that I've heard is that the game is much slower than the previous games, and to me that makes sense, given the fact that it is a prequel to 2016. Like, you don't want a game that's supposed to be a prequel that's, you know, faster. Oh, damn, she lost a full arm. Or whoever that guy is. Is it a she? Looks like a she. I see boobs. I see booba. I've played Dark Souls, I can parry. Alright, I think I'm starting to pick up the flow of the game. This is meant to be, this appears to me at least to be, it appears like they went for a simpler but still aggressive game. Because, I mean, obviously you can't overdo what Doom Eternal did in the game that's a prequel to the game that came before Doom Eternal, right? Like, it just doesn't work if you make the game ridiculously fast by comparison to Doom Eternal, right? When Doom Eternal is the last game in the timeline as of right now. But like I was saying, it seems like they went for a simpler game from what Doom Eternal was. Trying to create something that's fast-paced, while also still sort of fitting in as a prequel before Doom 2016. I mean, and so far, I'm okay with it. I think it's working pretty well so far. Granted, I haven't hit the major stuff just yet, but we will get there eventually. I do like the shield as far as it being sort of a distance closer sort of device. Like, it really helps with sort of navigating distances. Like, it helps close the distances between you and enemies. I think that's a good tool. It's a good utilitarian function while still being a weapon of some import. This is one thing I can already tell from the beginning that this is a very sort of it's sort of a different take on the Doom thing, because the vibe of that first mission is much more sort of story driven than the previous two games that came out. So that's the thing that sort of gets me in terms of where some of the complaints sort of came from, because I heard some people complaining that the game is too story heavy, you know, which is kind of ironic because there was, you know, a complaint about 2016 where it was too story light, you know. So it's a weird world to be in where a Doom game has too much story now after being criticized for having too little story, and then having too much story in the sequel to it. It's just seems like some people will just never be happy. What's the maximum range of this?
To the energy relay.
I'm curious now, what is the maximum range of this thing? Okay, so that's roughly the max range. It's like something around here. Yeah, something about there. It's a pretty good range, though. I like how they've sort of buffed the shield in different ways to make it useful in different environments for defense and offense. I like how I can break like metal and superheat it, but I can't break glass. It's one of those funny little video game moments of, you can do this thing, but you can't do this thing that should totally be possible given the other thing you can do. It's one of those weird things where these guys look super intimidating, and then you realize there's nobody down there for them to hit. I mean, I appreciate the background sort of clusterfuck going on just to sort of add to the atmosphere, but when you got a big guy walking around just smashing stuff that doesn't actually mean anything, it kind of ruins the moment. And there's just gold laying around. This really does feel like they took the Doom formula and sort of just inserted it into like a medieval fantasy game, like, I don't know, kind of like Vermintide, like I mentioned earlier. It feels very much like that, and I have mixed feelings about that. Like, on the one hand, I think it's cool, but on the other hand, it's also, it takes away from certain aspects of Doom being sort of a pseudo occult sci-fi thing, and now it's something that's not when you do it this way. And it's a weird sort of, it's like, I like what they do, like what they're doing so far, but it's sort of inconsistent with the rest of the franchise, which is kind of weird. I do like how we can just grab onto the walls when we run into them. We don't have to, like, hit a button. I didn't really have a big criticism of that in Doom Eternal, but I do like how it sort of just automatically does it. Ooh! That looks sweet. Oh, there's a big thing there. Do we get in the big thing? Everything that I've heard people complain about, I've been curious if I'll enjoy it or not, just because I've seen a lot of people complain about stuff in this game that doesn't really do anything. Like, their complaints are things that make me like the game. It's just weird. I've been enjoying the game so far. Curious how these other modes will do, because I have heard there's a mech section and there's a dragon section. Or there's at least one of each, so I'm curious how those function.
Neuralink established.
Getting some Pacific Rim shit in here. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they designed some of this off of, like, the Pacific Rim fights, because those were some really good fights to display, like, just sheer size of shit. I thought we'd be slower here. It feels... I can't really feel the weight. Sorry. To stomp. Stomp will create a fissure that can falter groups of enemies. Okay. Palm strike. Alright. Oh, you don't get to see it. This is kind of disappointing. This is like, when you get in a giant mech suit, you want to feel the weight of being in a giant mech suit. You want to feel the power of you walking around and, like, crushing shit underneath your giant metal boots. This is just not a good way to show that. It feels like I'm walking around a model set. This is the first, like, big complaint I've got, where it's just like, it's like, you can't even see me crushing these things. It's like they just blow up next to me. This is just, it feels like I'm a kid playing with my action figures. It doesn't feel like I'm in the mech suit doing mech suit shit. That's a shame. This was an opportunity to do some really cool, like, you know, take a step back from the speed and amplify the you know, like take a step back from the speed and amplify like slow, methodical, large hits. It's just damn. This was an opportunity to do something different that could still be epic. Instead, they just kind of did something basic. Oh man, this is the first section that's disappointed me.
Can't stop it now.
And this section is really like, it looks neat until you take a second to think, wait a minute, they could have done so many better versions of this. Oh, please shove that in his like mouth or something. That would be a very Doomslayer thing. That's a good ending to this. Underwhelming as this whole section kind of was. Mr. Garrus, Mr. Sheep, how's it going? Skull Crusher, Pulverizer. That's just so much just metal in a single, like, weapon name. Hello! You all suck! Alright, so how is the combat so far? I heard it was slightly controversial with a parry system or something. Yeah, everything's sort of been rejigged around using the shield. And so far, I'm not against it. I like the shield. I like the versatility of the shield and how it sort of works in conjunction with other weapons. My biggest criticism of the game so far is that some of the gimmicks are a little lame. Like the previous section we were in was sort of the mech level, where we got to pilot one of those giant, like, mech warrior suits that you saw in Doom Eternal. The problem is, it didn't feel like we were piloting a mech. Like, we weren't slow and lumbering like you might see in, like, Pacific Rim or a movie like that, you know, encourages that sort of, like, slow pace to a giant creature. So far, I like the basic combat. Just some of the gimmick fights have been kind of eh. That does sound lame. Giant mech levels can be super fun when you feel slow but tanky and hard-hitting. Yeah, it's one of those things where it was the perfect opportunity to slow down and do some really slow, ultra-violent shit to kind of change the pace up, but they didn't, and I was like, wow, that's the first real disappointment across this series of games so far, in my opinion, where I was like, wow, there was a golden opportunity there. They just didn't do it. For whatever reason. I do like this, though. I do like the shield being able to do crazy shit like this. It's very entertaining. I do miss the lack of glory kills, though. One thing I sort of like about the game is it feels like they took the Doom sort of aesthetic and just plopped it into like a medieval game. Because you pick up gold and shit, and that's fun. But on the other side of that, it's sort of weird to have that because it feels inconsistent, and it is inconsistent with the other Doom games. That's the shield? I thought that was just a side melee weapon the entire time. Nope, that's the shield. The shield works both for offense and defense. Surprisingly enough, it's a pretty neat weapon. You can block damage with it, you can ping it off of objects, and you use it for parkour as well. It's kind of the shield's definitely a cool thing. I've been enjoying the shield so far. You also can shield bash and do interesting shit that way. Shield good. So far, shield very good. There's a big focus on melee combat in this game, which is one of those things that I feel like, depending on who you are, you might like or dislike that. I'm sort of neutral on it, but I've liked it so far. So that's sort of where I'm at this point in time. Nothing screams medieval quite like an advanced fortress surrounded by sci-fi ships shooting lasers at each other. Yeah, it's a little weird. It's a little weird. Some of the aesthetics of it are just strange. They got a combo system where using the shield grants you, like, melee hits, and the melee hits help you kill big enemies very quickly. It's a neat little system, but it's sort of a... You have to sort of untrain yourself from the other games to make it work. It's a weird thing where I've liked a lot of the things introduced in the game in terms of how they've changed the combat, but given that it's not in the same sort of vein as the other Doom games. It's a very different sort of thing to deal with. Like, that's the combo. Like, that's a combo. You parry at the right time, then you do like a melee combo, and it utterly destroys some of the demons. Or you parry and do like a counterattack with the shield, and that creates an opening to do X, Y, or Z. It's a neat system, but it's very different from the other Doom games. Shield Bash has a massive AoE as well. Well, not a massive AoE, but like a big AoE that helps get rid of the fodder demons, which can be helpful. And there still are glory kills, right? Are they just more rare or gone in this one? They're more rare so far, based on what I've seen. Like, it's a thing where the glory kills are still there, but they're sort of tied to a mechanic where you may not count them as glory kills, if that makes sense. Like the melee combo sort of takes precedence over glory kills specifically, but glory kills still function and they're still there. It's just you might be using shield stuff and shooting enemies because there's unique functions with the shield instead of other shit. So basically the shield replaces some of the glory kills in the past. They still exist, but there's not quite as many this time around. I hope Satan doesn't exist in these games. I don't know if he does. I mean, the Dark Lord technically counts, I guess, but he's not really like Satan. The game, now this is one thing, the game is more clear about where points of no return are. Like, they have a specific symbol that like tells you what it is. And that's helpful. That really does help. If he is, I imagine he's in some bunker hiding and praying Doom Guy never breaks in. Yes. Oh, yeah, I gotta get... I'm still getting used to certain things, because they want you to use the shield instead of melee for some things, and Doom Eternal trains me to do different shit. So I'm just kind of confused the whole time. Where I'm like, I must unlearn what I have learned. Alright. Yeah, one thing that I did like as well is they made mini-bosses around that will give you the little boosts to health, to max health and armor and ammo. That was a mini-boss? Yeah. It's not super unique, but I do like how their plays on sort of traditional demons we've seen. This is one thing too, the gameplay loop of this game is very different from the other games, and so it's sort of weird to go through and play when you know sort of how the differences work. Is there difficulty modes to this? Yes. We're playing on the second lowest. We're playing on the Hurt Me Plenty. It's got the same difficulties as the other games, but there's a bunch of little modifiers you can mess with in the settings menu. I'm gonna leave everything at default for this difficulty just because I don't want to tweak too much shit. Oh, dragon! You are not a dragon. You look cool, though. One weird thing is I've enjoyed this game so far, but Doom Eternal is still my favorite overall in terms of pacing. Oh, they're fighting over the Slayer. It's a neat detail. Okay, I'm game. Hey, big boy. I hope you have a really undercut name like, I don't know, like Weenie or something. I appreciate id wanting to try new things and experiment, but I really wanted another game like 2016. Eternal was not for me. I hated the Marauders and constantly being low on ammo. I mean, each one of the games is very different in the way it sort of manages its overall sort of like gameplay flow and cycle. Now I'm a flying dragon. Ooh! Dark Ages seems more interesting. Might pick it up when it goes on sale down the line. Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it so far. It's just some areas have not been that great. I did not like the mech section. The mech section had potential, but was completely underwhelming. This, on the other hand, might prove promising. Assault mode. Person hold to lock onto a target with assault mode. While in assault mode, press space with a directional input to dodge. Dodge green Hell Surge attacks to trigger a perfect dodge, empowering your autocannon. The dragon can dodge up, down, left, or right. Yeah, see, this is something similar that happened with, this is something that happened in the mech mode that I was not a fan of. See, this is a mode where this essentially has very similar mechanics to the mech mode, but the dragon feels interesting. The dragon mode has its own sort of personality. The mech mode was just lame. A lot of these modes are very sort of combo based, and it's one thing that feels weird in the Doom series, but at the same time it's not done poorly, it's just not what I'm used to, so doing it's kind of weird.
Assault mode engaged.
I mean, one thing that Doom Eternal, all the Doom games have definitely gotten right is the rule of cool, right? Make the player feel like a badass, and that's a win.
Those ships are powered.
There we go. For some reason, we have to jet into the landing instead of just landing. This is such a weird mixture of, like, 5 different game types put together. I need to listen to the Dark Ages soundtrack, now I think about it, because, I actually did buy it, just because I've loved everything that they've made so far. I basically went out of my way because I have a lot of faith in this company. And even though I've got some complaints about this game, they are relatively outnumbered by the positives. Now, one thing I have noticed is an issue is sometimes there'll be a double input where I don't actually want to do something, but the game gives me like a double input moment. It's not terrible, but it is one of those things that does kind of like mess with the experience a little bit. Ooh. That reminds me of Dead Space. I need to go back and replay Dead Space. And Dead Space 2. I love Dead Space 2. I need to go black. Go black? No. I need to go back and play Dead Space 2, because I really enjoy playing that game, and haven't played it in years.
Valen, are you seeing anything?
Definitely having some texture issues here.
Sir.
Well,
Maybe he didn't survive.
texture glitches. Ho! That's the weird thing I've had. I got a pop-up that says OBS can screw with the textures a little bit. I find the Fat Maker to be funny.
Should we launch the Slayer now? The Sentinels will be overrun.
And what about us?
Yeah, break free, Slayer.
Slayer movement detected.
I wonder if he'll finally break free, or if this is like a tease for the final break free, like later on.
Turn it off before he kills us all!
Now you gotta work with Daddy.
It would appear that the Slayer no longer wishes to be detained here.
Shield power down to 35%.
Should we terminate his life functions?
And destroy the Cogmaker's prized possession.
34.
So long as he has that tether on him,
33.
we can still have a hand in his fate.
32.
Send me into the action. I don't know why, but like it's just the bits on the planet that screw up for some reason. This is very dark fantasy.
Prepare for battle! King Novik, there is an urgent call from the Creedmaker.
Lord Novik, a large horde is headed toward your position. We are launching the Slayer now. Please send forces immediately to ensure our safety.
Thank you, Bishop Creed.
Oh, I saw the arachnotrons. I saw them.
The gods.
Engaging deflector shield.
Lord Novik, it's a massive
Force, 3 legions word.
That's just fine.
The hangar is blockaded, sire. No one can get in or out.
Well, we're gonna have to change that. Daddy needs a new front door. Just kicks it in. Alright, we are... I hope we don't go... I hope this isn't gonna be like a lore bit that's like super heavy. That's one thing. I like the lore of the Doomslayer. I like the story of this so far. My biggest sort of anxiety is if we get into like a scene where we have to run around collecting lore pieces. Alright, there's a point of no return. It's marked for some reason. Not exactly sure why. There's like nothing over here I can interact with, so why bother putting the... I have so many like little questions about why did you put this here? Like it has a purpose, but why put that here? I don't fully understand it. Anyway, oh damn, look at this area. Well, Daddy's getting to work.
Defensive turrets took some damage. Slayer, we need time to repair them before we can clear a path for the lifeboats.
There are 4 more Hellgates.
A lot of the dialogue in the game feels a little stilted. Like it's just them going, "There's a thing," and then that's kind of it. Like there's not like any dialogue around it to make it feel like an actual command or an order or an instruction. It's just kind of like, "Thing exists," and then just the rest is left up to the Slayer to do shit. Hey there. Tentacle. Major tentacle. Stay underground. Keep your hentai to yourself. Morale encounters. Morale encounters feature a leader demon that is shielded until the morale meter is empty. Morale is depleted by killing demons. The more powerful the demon, the more morale meter will deplete. Once the morale meter is empty, the leader's shield goes down, allowing it to be killed. He's got the power of friendship on his side. Little Slayer. Yeah. I always like the little details that they do with the Slayer, like the fist bump and then the little blade extension and Doom Eternal and that little shield spin. It's really weird. The levels were not that big for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they got super, like, super huge. That level was a weird change of pace compared to the previous one. It's like the last couple of levels were sort of fast-paced and you keep doing stuff. It's just like that one, because it's so big and because the entire levels just drop in, clear this area, find everything, and then that's it. You kind of run into that thing where this mission feels like a drag even though you're still doing stuff constantly. It's that weird thing of pacing for games like this where you try to keep the energy up the whole time, but then you end up with levels like this where you have this giant sort of you have this giant level you're trying to get through, but You know, like when you make a more linear encounter where you go from arena to arena to arena to arena to arena to arena, that feels faster paced than if you just drop them into a massive area and just say clear it and find all the secrets, because there's going to be a lot of dead time in between each area. I mean, I'm not against the giant arena idea, and I don't think the execution is terrible. It's just, it's one of those things where when it's compared to the more linear levels, the linear levels tend to keep the pace up and the intensity higher than those giant levels, because, you know, if you go looking for secrets, you know, you spend a lot of time kind of wandering around looking for stuff, or looking for stuff to help unlock other stuff. It's kind of weird. Hey, big boy. Aim for the head, and if the head doesn't work, shoot the crotch. Shoot him in the dick. I've been listening to the soundtrack to this game because I bought it like a fool, and I've really enjoyed it. I really enjoy listening to it. I always like concept art that they find a way to, like, put into the game somehow. It's a neat sort of thing that you don't really notice unless you know that it happens, and then when you do see it, it's like, oh, neat. All these upgrades require different currency, so it's like I'm not sure if I should save for X or Y, like leading up to a thing, because I just don't know if, I don't know, I don't know where the, you know, when it's going to switch over to another sort of thing. It makes it hard to sort of plan for the future when certain things cost different types of currency you don't have yet. Apparently it's empty. Where did he hide it?
Tell me where it is. Run.
Hey, he said words. That was it? That's really weird, man. It's like Siege Part 1 was like a massive level with all these different places to go to and explore. It was just like one big level. This was like one very small level, just sort of like tagged on for some reason. I thought there'd be more. It's just strange. That's one thing about this game that I've noticed as I've played it, because I'm roughly like a little over a third of the way through it, and the pacing of it is really odd. And I use the word odd specifically because there's so many little things that are like, why did you do that? You know, like from like a developer standpoint. It's like, why did you do this? You know, like why was the previous level one massive level that you had to clear basically, and you started off like with the option to go anywhere? You know, it's like that level was one big massive open area, right? It wasn't like the traditional levels beforehand where you start from A, you go to B, you go to C, you go to D. That level was just all open. And it was big. Like, it took me a while to beat it. This level was so much shorter by comparison, and it felt weird. It's like, why... Like, my thing is, why split up the Siege into Part 1 and Part 2? I feel like you could have just put them together. Enjoying the game so far? I am enjoying the game so far. I just have really weird questions about, like, why do X, Y, and Z the way they're doing it. It's just odd. It's just, for lack of a better word. I'm assuming this game is sort of going to show the events that led to the makers and Hell working together. That's what I assume based on what I've seen so far. See, this just a playthrough, or you plan on doing a video on it in the future? I do plan to do a video on it in the future. The only thing is, I'm going to make the video after all the DLC is out. So I have no idea how long that's going to be. I don't know how... I forgot if they're going to have one DLC or two, but my thing is I'm just going to play through the game on stream, and then once the game is finished, I do plan to do a commentary and analysis of it. So this is basically just a first impression sort of series of streams. So that's basically where we're at with this. Without spoilers, I can say it doesn't really link much with the other two games or explains what happened to lead up to Doom 2016. Now, part of that might be because they're saving, like, they're saving like some big connecting event for the DLC. They might be doing something like that, because I do know this game is going to have at least one DLC. I think it might have one or two. I can't tell. It mentions it in like the super duper like ultra like We Love You edition or whatever it's called. Dude, where are you going? What are you doing? Oh. Now we go. It's kind of funny how this game, the gameplay loop for this kind of morphs back and forth between combat, like the combat loop is sort of or shoot, counter, collect. Like you collect the health or the ammo that's dropped. And then with the exploration side of it, it's like look at map, move in direction, find thing. And it kind of just repeats. Couldn't throw my shield in there. I'm actually very, very sort of like confused. Like, how am I supposed to do this section? Oh, wow, I'm dumb. It's right there. I'm not stupid. I'm fickle. This is one thing I didn't notice until just now, is I kind of like how the goop is like an indicator of like, hey, parkour maybe? It's a little on the nose, but I'm kind of okay with it to a certain extent. I mean, I don't need like my puzzles and stuff in a game like this where the focus is combat to be really complicated. When you make everything in a game too hardcore, then the whole game ends up being too hardcore. Very, very... Okay, here's another big level of just go do shit. I kind of like these levels just in the grand scheme of things, like being able to run around and just say, hey, do all these things in this level, go. This is one thing about making levels like this, where they're just this big open area, is that when you put collectibles all over the place and then you put other challenges and things all over the place, you run into an issue where the game is sort of extra open, even when it doesn't really need to be. And it can lead to issues with, like, you'll get into a fight, and then you'll want to go explore, and then you'll get into another fight, and you'll want to, you know, you'll essentially want to do the same thing over and over and over. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that, you know, when you have combat based around objectives in a big map like this that's open, and the goal is just to complete shit on the map, you run into issues with pacing because you have essentially the combat sections, you know, where you go to a new area, then you fight, and then you have all the collectible shit where it's like, okay, I need to figure out how to unlock, you know, this thing, which requires this item, which is in a different area, so I have to go to this area, then I have to come back here later on with a different thing, and so you have this thing where designing things that way creates a certain amount of dead space in between actions, you know, where I'm just doing what I'm doing right now, which is just I'm running from A to B because A was in one location and B was in another, and I'm trying to make everything work. I'm assuming Thera dies because, or maybe most of these Sentinels die, because Novik's ghost thing remains, but she's not. She doesn't appear at all.
No harm must come to her. She is the heart of Argent.
Oh no, they did the girl that's the key to everything. No. This is one of those things where like the cinematics are more based on like trying to make it like a movie than anything else. And while I'm not really against that, it does feel kind of weird where like the Slayers sort of, I mean, we just kind of have to sit here and wait for the lore to happen, you know? Because it doesn't really, it relates to us, but it only relates to us in the fact that it deals with the story we're in. Like, it's not directly tied to our actions so much as they do their thing in a location when we could not know what they're talking about, you know? Another life. It is nice that they balance the life system, because Doom Eternal did have a thing where you could just get way too many lives, and it just made the game a little too easy. Because, I mean, like, if you can get the lives, you've basically got, like, an extra, like, 30 attempts by the time you get to like the late game, and like I really wish we could keep like an arsenal for the big guy. I mean, it'd be really cool. It'd be a cool expansion of the combat with the Atlans if they upgraded along with the Doomslayer. You know, like get different like shoulder cannons and shit. It'd be cool. It'd be real cool.
Our time will come.
Ah, he's not here. Yeah. Chicken! Bark, bark, bark. It's really weird. Some of these levels got really short really quickly. Either, well, it's either that or I'm getting better at the game and it's just going by faster. I think they broke. We're gonna go into another world and fight a giant Cthulhu monster. I'm down. Wow, it's like literally a Cthulhu demon. Only the Doomslayer could ride a Cthulhu monster through a portal to another dimension. That's not a sentence I thought I'd be saying about Doomslayer, but it kind of fits. It kind of works. We're back with Doom the Dark Ages. We just flew off into another dimension on Cthulhu's back, so let's go see where Cthulhu will take us. We're going to ride Cthulhu to victory, as the title suggests. So, no preamble. Let's just get in. Simply says the cosmic realm awaits. I've heard people say the cosmic realm is like a place for them to go to do other things outside of Doom Eternal's sort of ending point. So I hope this doesn't fuck with the narrative overall. So now that you've played more of this game, do you have any new praises and criticisms of it? Is it worth the price? I'm not a Doom guy, no pun intended, but it's nice to hear if a game is worth its asking price. I mean... Okay, I gotta qualify this, because I think that I'm basically 2/3 into the game at this point. I think it is fun, I think it is engaging, and I think it does keep up certain things that the Doom series is sort of like known for, regarding the collectibles being hidden around and the combat being engaging in different ways. I think the main thing about this game is that you should wait for some sort of discount, because I don't think it's worth the $70 to get the basic version, like, fresh. I don't think it's worth that. Now, $60, maybe, but I mean, I'm at the point where I think that the game is good, but not worth the price hike that they implemented for it. So 60 at the highest, but preferably you'd want to catch the game on a good deal. Yeah, basically. Yeah, something like that. That makes sense, and it's kind of inevitable. For $70, your game legit has to shake the entire gaming world. I would agree with that, yeah. I'm talking it needs to influence future games for years. That's how good it needs to be. Yeah, I think the game, like, in terms of like game to price range, I think the price is dictated by the game being either fantastic for full price, or it needs to be a game that you can get more hours than bucks spent on it. Right? Like if you pay $60 for a game, if you get upwards of 60 hours of playtime in it without like repeating content, I think it's worth the price, right? But if you pay $60 for a game where all the content's over in like 4 hours or like 8 hours, I think at that point you've just kind of like made a game that's just, you're just price gouging at this point. Even if the game's good, even if the game is good. Gotta double down on that no repeating content bit, because that is definitely a loophole devs will want to take. Yeah. I mean, Elden Ring's probably a good example of the amount of content is drastically increased just because they repeat assets over and over. And I mean, tons of games do that. This isn't just an Elden Ring problem, but it's like, you're just repeating shit. over and over and over without actually changing anything. You know, at least with something like Skyrim, like there's a significant amount of maps that are laid out differently. Yeah, they might have repeated enemies and stuff like that, but that's more a thing of the world being consistent than it is like an actual, like, negative of the game. My main thing is just Elden Ring repeats ass. Like, one of the bigger appeals of Elden Ring is, of that series in general, is bosses. And when you repeat regular enemies as bosses over and over and over, and you repeat bosses over and over and over with slight changes, you've basically just made the same boss over and over and over, and it feels that way. And that stuff gets annoying. Especially when you feel like you've beaten the boss like 6 times over. Really want to see the cacodemons. I love the cacodemons. I think they're very funny. Especially with their... My best friend and I have like a face that we like to make as a joke about the cacodemons, just because the cacodemons have like a big face that's like, ah! So we meme that. It's a shit in back. Oh, is this another melee weapon? That's what it feels like to dick down your wife. I mean, as much as I like this, I prefer the flail just because it's better than the power gauntlet, but more useful than the dread mace. So I might be going back to the thing that's sort of kept things rolling here. One thing that has been kind of neat about this game by comparison to the others is because of the amount of fodder demons that exist, a lot of weapon challenges go by pretty quickly. So is this going to introduce some third faction to this universe besides the demons? And, well, I say third faction, but there's Urdak and all those, like, Maker stuff. Then there's the Sentinels. Then there's Hell. Then there's Human. Are we going to introduce a new faction that's behind the scenes, maneuvering things to gain influence and stuff? I'm curious how big the DLC is going to be for this game. If they're going to have one big one, or if it's going to be split up like Ancient Gods was. Nope! Shit. What the fuck? I'm confused now. Did I respawn at the wrong spot? I feel like I did. I don't think I was supposed to respawn here. I think the game may have fucked me, because I think I'm stuck here. I don't think I can actually do anything. Yeah, because there should be like a portal of some kind in here. Okay, we're gonna have to I don't think we have to restart the level, but we'll need to reload or do something. Even this Doom has these bugs, good lord. I mean, to be fair, I've not experienced that in the other games so much. I don't really think the series definitely has some technical issues that they need to iron out, but as far as I remember, I don't remember having any real issues in the other games as far as, like, saving being screwed up. Ah, okay, we're doing a... It's kind of weird how the levels go back and forth between these massive areas where it's like, hey, do everything here and then move on, versus the linear sort of like, go here, then here, then here. I like both ideas of the levels, but going back and forth feels a little odd at times. I mean, certain levels had this in the previous game as well, but it's a weird thing I've kind of thought more and more about as I've gone on dealing with stuff. Let's see here, I can just keep shooting. Just keep on shooting. One thing that's kind of funny about this challenge to like get this gun up and running is it's basically just a challenge of use weapon a lot. That's pretty much it. So here we go. Tentacle goop area. Don't molest me. Yeah, give me that upgrade. If there were demon dogs, you'd relish in bathing in their blood. I mean, but that's their fault for being demon dogs. I mean, that's not my fault that they're my enemy by virtue of being a different species. Doomslayer's very racist when you get down to it. He just wants to kill demons. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're friendly or if you're trying to rip someone's guts out. Just demons must die. Speak of the devil, did I just find the dog by just looking in a direction? That's fantastic. That was very lucky on my part. Hey, I can just boost this. That's handy. He's just gonna sit there and just take damage. Wow, he is just gonna sit there until I'm done. Thanks for the free points, buddy. I appreciate it. One thing I will say I'm not a fan of is sort of the restricted way that the ammo is upgraded. You know, like you have to kill demons in particular spots to make this work. You know, and I kind of like the other games how they had some freedom in like which ammo you upgrade, like how you upgraded your upgrades. They weren't linear like this sort of is. Yeah, we don't have a... Yeah, almost done. Almost done. I really want to max out the shield first just to say, hey, we completely finished that up. And then we can call it quits and be like, yeah, we're done.
Stars bleed, and the void calls.
You are the void. I am the girth. Or whatever the opposite of the void is. Are we going to get some dialogue in this section at all? I hope so. I guess not. These slow sections of going through water are good times to drop dialogue just because it's the good point where the game slows down purposely. And you can, like, take it sort of chill. I hope we don't have to avoid underwater creatures. I'm going to have anxiety about that. I'm going to have flashbacks to Subnautica. Blub, 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 blub. Now, this is one thing. I do think the swimming sections are sort of the weaker sections of the games. They aren't that interesting, all things considered. Nice. So we've got the maximum cell ammo, the maximum shotgun ammo, the Maxicum, otherwise known as the Ultra Nut. So I think we've got most ammo upgrades at this point. If not all of them, I'm not quite sure. This is a big arena, so I assume we're having a boss fight here. If not, it's going to be kind of weird to have this big area. Here we go. Oh, dang. Okay, that explains the pool being huge. Hello, Cthulhu. Are you angry? Oh, okay. we just get eaten. No, Cthulhu ate us. 'Tis not good. 'Tis not good at all. It's nice of this guy to have a whole, like, demon colony inside him. Wow, just that little shit just powering everybody up in the background. He's like, I got it, guys. I got it. Okay, it says there's a point of no return, so I guess there's... Is something guarding this? Or are we gonna kill it and then we can get the chest nearby? I really hope the level didn't change. And now I'm not gonna get some of the progress I made. Ah, damn it. We missed... How are you supposed to get that gold in the other section? Damn, that actually makes me mad. The one thing, I missed the fast travel of Doom Eternal at the end of the level. That would have been helpful for redoing stuff instead of giving random warning signs of, hey, you can't go back. Let's see what happens to the girl that's the key to everything. I'm assuming she doesn't survive because she's never mentioned in the other two games.
Her energy is too powerful. Even for you. The Sentinels know so little about themselves. She has the spirit of an ancient Sentinel god within her. A wraith who are descendants of this realm. Here, her energy becomes fully realized. And it can be harnessed. We should kill him. We'll need something more permanent. Etrigos, Zarath, Maziker.
Wow, that got you on your knees, Doom Guy. I know. I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of Doom Guy being sort of just like stunned and just useless. I knew he wasn't built for this. The fat guy reminds me of Baron Harkonnen from Dune. Not the new ones, but the old one from the 80s. Just fat guy floating around everywhere. Oh man, Belly of the Beast, 77%. That hurts my soul. Hurts my soul. The weird thing is we got all the hard parts done, right? It's just that last little secret and pieces of gold we're just not doing well. Is the Slayer gonna appear through this portal, or is it just gonna be like weird shit? Is Azrak gonna come here and just fuck with the Sentinels now? It's a sign of intimidation. My shirt's off now. Now you have to take me seriously.
Now.
It's kind of funny how the only thing that could break Doom Guy's helmet is his own face smashing against it. Because he hit him with the helmet, right? That's it. Doom Guy, please yap. Angaris would love it if you started yapping it. How did you know that I would hate it if he started just blah 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 blah? He should say no more than like 10 lines, like 10 words per game, right? He should not say a lot. I don't know how that works. But then again, I don't know how a lot of this stuff works in this game. It's just a whole bunch of, like, weird shit. We're getting absorbed into the primal goo. What are we going to come out as? Is it going to be like Bionicle, where we come out of the goo and we look like a combination of good and evil? I don't know, man. I don't know.
They are rage. Brutal. Without mercy.
Call back.
But you will be worse. Rip and tear until it is done.
Directly lifting that dialogue from the first game. Or the first of the reboot games. So where is this? Where is this going? I'm wondering where this is. Are we going to show up here after the Sentinels have been completely screwed? Throwback. Kind of a throwback to the beginning of the first reboot game. Ooh, better yet, give Doom Guy a kid that follows him around and talks a ton, showing his sweet side. I forgot, didn't they do that in one of the Doom games? Or am I thinking of some other thing? I haven't played the original Doom games up to Doom 2016. What? So am I like a zombie now? How does this work? I hope they pull back the Doomslayer looking like a zombie, because I'm not a fan of that. Just seems like a really useless sort of thing to do. They'll only let me in if I'm dead.
Payment required.
Yeah. See, that's very Doomslayer. Alright, looks like boss fight. At least I hope so. We haven't had that many boss fights in the game, which is a little disappointing. It's like every unique encounter ends up turning into like a regular recurring enemy. I just imagine the Slayer thinking, I've had a really shit day. Are we gonna have naval combat now? So it's like we went to the underworld and we're basically gonna break ourselves out. Daddy's home. We in the Forbidden Forest? Where the hell are we? When in doubt, just follow the blood. It'll probably take you where you need to go. I wonder if there's an edge to this level. Ah, there is. Alright, I was wondering if there might be like a cultist thing around here. Ah! Textures! Textures!
We invoke the dark powers to call upon the damned.
Man, textures took a hard hit during that transition. Holy shit.
I'm going back.
Are we literally going to be remade of the goo? We are made men by the blood. We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. God, it's good not to be rotting. It's sorry. That was some PS1 levels of textures. God, yeah. I think that was OBS screwing it up. Oh no, he screwed up the incantation. We've got a weakness somewhere. Or we've got limited time. Who's this other guy? I don't remember seeing him like at all. Double parry! And here's the awkward part. It's like, once you sort of clear out the level, you're like, where could this last dog be? I was just complaining about not having a boss fight, and it's like, oh, here we go. Actual unique enemy boss fight. Oh, I can boost it. Well, this has been a fun challenge. Let's see if we have enough ammo to actually, like, complete this. Because, I mean, why not, right? Poor Creed. Nah, he deserved it. Look at him. He's a fat schlub. Oh, well, we tried. Doom Guy disagrees.
I can bring you Prince Azrin.
Is this phase 2? He's just a series of slugs. Yes, phase 2! I can abuse it again! Nice. I feel like we're gonna have 2 levels. The first one's gonna be the Atlan level, and the second one's gonna be the final, like, actual final battle. Maybe the last level will just be all boss fight. Who knows?
It won't be ready in time, sir.
Refueling complete. Royal Atlan online.
Do we get to fight do we get to be the royal one? That'd be fun. Yeah, Doom Guy's not getting past those big guys, I hope. Just wait. Just you wait. What's funny is these things act so big and slow and brutal in the cutscenes, but then when you play as them, they're just as fast as the Slayer, and it's like, bruh. Even has a cape. Let's go! Shit, this is just way too fast. Oh, are we gonna have an Atlan boss fight? Are we gonna fight a giant version of him? Or are we gonna fight like some crazy demon he's had up his sleeve? Or are we gonna fight Cthulhu? That'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool. Yep, there it is. It's even got armor and stuff. Bro, stop flashing light in its face. Shoot it. Ooh, man. Breaking his leg and ripping his head off. That feels appropriate. That feels appropriate. Fuck you, Cthulhu. It's now canon the Doomslayer is stronger than Cthulhu. Ah, phase 2. I like how he has like a demon bulge. That's hilarious. Demon bulge! Every time he rises up, I get flashbacks of Melania. I didn't think the Azrak boss fight was that bad. But, it is one of those weird things where it's like, comparing it to other boss fights in the game, it feels kind of... It feels like you hit the same button over and over and over. You know, with parry, and that's sort of how you defeat him. And I get that that's sort of a core combat mechanic in this game. It's just, it kind of makes the fight a little less multi-dimensional by comparison to some of the other fights, but then again, most of the other ones have the same thing with like, here's your avoid damage button with the dash, here's your avoid damage button with the parry. It's kind of a problem with the whole system in place. One thing I will say, the cinematography of the cutscenes is pretty well done. It does a real good job of enforcing the moment. You know, that last shot I liked of, you know, Doomslayer like getting all the guys behind him. Thera has to die, right, or disappear before the events of Doom Eternal happen. Because as far as I remember, there's no mention of her at all, like in Doom Eternal, right, which heavily deals with the Doomslayer's backstory. So this feels strange. Like there has to be like she has to disappear, right? Like they can't retcon her to be the most important person in the universe like a lot of other games have done, you know, by making sort of the new female lead sort of like super important for no real reason besides we need female in STEM and female important women, yay. I hope the game doesn't do that. I don't think they can, just because of the way it's been set up in previous games, but I don't know, we'll see what happens. So are we just going to get like a straight boss battle, or are we going to get like a full level and a boss battle, is my biggest question. Because I feel like either would be okay. Just jumping straight into a boss fight, or just going into like another sort of section? Okay, there's a full-blown level here. Sweet. Alternating targets. Alternating targets. I have played Doom before.
Any word?
No one has seen him since the assault.
We are much better off with him on his own. And you, young sentinel. Your father tells me great things about you.
Thank you, sir. The Maker's Church has disavowed all actions taken by the Creed. They give their word he was acting alone, and they'll bring justice to anyone that collaborated with them.
We'll move forward with our own Inquisition, quietly.
It is time to look forward. We will always be a people of faith. But we must consider now who we will put that faith in. And I say to you, there is no better place to turn to than ourselves. This is our home, and we will stand together to the last sentinel to defend it. As we have before, as our ancestors did. As we always will. And lastly, I'll ask you to join me now in paying our respect to him. The people of Argentanur rest easier now, knowing he is out there.
The king really should have addressed everybody instead of her. I mean, I guess the DLC will just be us going on a crusade through hell just to wipe them out and uncovering something, I guess. I'm not really sure, like, where the DLC's gonna, like, go. But, like, the DLC should end with us being entombed at some point, right? Unless they're gonna do more games in between the first... in between 2016 and this game. But, yeah, so, I enjoy the game, right? I don't think it's a bad game, right? Really at all. I think there are some technical issues they need to iron out, because this was released, what, like 3 weeks ago? 4 weeks ago at this point. Overall, I enjoyed playing the game. I enjoyed the shift of mechanics from Doom Eternal, where Doom Eternal was all about speed. And this game was all about timing, which I think it was... I think that was an interesting shift to sort of make each game its own thing. Make each... Like, the first... Like, if you look at Doom 2016... The bedrock of the combat is about movement, right? And sort of environmental awareness. They build on that in Doom Eternal with the addition of speed and the, like, parkour elements of the jumping and the, like, vaulting off of, like, the pole things and using the dash, right? In this game, everything has sort of been rebalanced around the shield acting as our sort of speed device and our way to counter things. And I think they did a pretty good job of using the shield as a sort of bedrock mechanic of this allows you to parry, which does different things. And you can tell that they started off with the shield to some degree being the main weapon and then built a lot of other things around it, like all the additional effects that come from all of the like all the additional effects that your guns get and that your melee weapons get when parrying certain projectiles and what boosts you get from parrying, right? So I think in a way this game is very... I think this is a good step away from Doom Eternal's combat, because as far as I could think, I don't think you could one-up Doom Eternal's combat in terms of just raw intensity and speed. Like, I don't think that you will be able to one-up that without making the game ridiculously fast to the point that most people won't be able to play it, right? So, like, I think the combat shift to a more slower timing-based thing as opposed to just complete movement, complete, like, super fast, agile thing, I think that does warrant some praise for them doing that pretty well. I think the parry system was an interesting way to sort of shake up the combat without having the same issue that Doom Eternal had with some of its enemies that were a little bit more gimmicky in the way you dealt with them. Like, one thing in Doom Eternal that can be a bit of a snag with the combat is when you have to wait on enemies to do particular attacks to do certain things. And that was the biggest thing with the Marauders that was problematic in Doom Eternal, was that you had to basically get in position and wait for them to do the right attack for you to punish them, right? And because of that, that kind of puts you in a little bit of a state of limbo while you wait on that. Granted, the limbo might be 1 to 2 seconds, right? Like, it may not be that long, but there is an element to it where you kind of have to wait on the enemy to do a thing. Whereas in this game, they kicked that up a notch where almost every non-fodder enemy, or even some of the fodder enemies, that they have some parryable move that they generate relatively often, right? So that downtime isn't really felt as much in this game because it's a part of the rhythm of this game where parrying is such a big deal, right? Because they shifted the parrying to be sort of a main kind of a main sort of thingy. Where they made parrying the sort of the main focus of the game, that means all the other enemies were sort of rebalanced to have constant moves that you could parry in different ways with different timing. And I think that was an interesting shift from what they'd done previously. I think that I like the enemy design and the shift from sort of what went on previously, where it was basically a bunch of different enemies. You decide which one to attack, just kill them all, right? I like the shift towards mini-bosses having different effects depending on what they did, right? Like the mini-boss that boosts demons and makes them tougher and more damaging. And I also like the morale one, where you basically have to deal with all the little ones, and then you can fight the boss and kill it, right? Like I like those changes of pace from just shoot everything that moves, right? I think it does add some more dynamics to the fight and also makes dealing with enemies more strategic in who you take out first and why. Some of the changes to the melee and the glory kill thing, I think that is a step backwards. I think the glory kills were a very fun part of Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, and I think those things being drastically cut down, I think it does affect the overall feel of the game in a way that's sort of unspoken. You know, because when you see these glory kills all over the place in Doom 2016 and in Doom Eternal, you have that feeling of this Slayer is just ridiculously powerful, crushing these demons and just killing them in the most over-the-top ways possible. You know, it sort of helps with the world and the Slayer himself because he's deadly efficient and takes great pleasure in the fact that he is committing such violent acts against these monsters, right? And that's part of the fun, right? You know, there are several kill moves from 2016 and Eternal that I remember because of how over the top they are. And I mean, one of my favorites is the slithery enemy. When you get them and you basically rip off their arm and then their bones sticking out and you shove that into the bottom of their face, right? That's a really good glory kill, and there are tons of them in Doom Eternal and in 2016. This game, on the other hand, has very little death cam stuff, right? Like, and the thing is, there's a lot of kill moves, right? Like there are several kill moves that happen when you finish off an enemy, that's stunned, basically. The thing in this, though, is that they're so fast most of the time, and the only time that you get a real glory kill is like if you do like an above drop-down kill, or if it's a scripted cinematic kill, right? Like, all the other ones are just sort of a vague, you hit them even harder at the end of their life and it kills them, right? Which is such an underwhelming thing in a game that comes after the advances made in 2016 and in Eternal, right? Because both of those games had great glory kills, all around, right? And they were constant, right? They happened all the time, and every enemy had a myriad of unique ways to get these kills, right? And this time around, it felt like they were actively not trying to put in that many glory kills, and I think that was a loss. Getting to the melee weapons, I think the melee weapon weapon switch, for the sake of the combat being more sort of melee focused, I think there's a give and a take with it, where introducing the melee weapons, I think, was something that was appropriate given the sort of aesthetic of the sort of Middle Ages type of combat system. I say that as we still have guns and shit, but you know what I mean, right? It sort of fits the aesthetic to have a flail and like a fist, and then like a even bigger like mace, right? I think the problem comes in the way the three things are balanced, because you have the fist being the cheaper, simpler one to use. Then you have the mace being the one that gives armor but doesn't have as many uses as the fist. And then you have the ultra mace, which takes a long time to charge but is incredibly devastating. I think what probably should have happened is I think you should have just had the low level one and the high level one. I don't think you need the mace there in the middle, right? Or at the very least, I don't think you need the fist, right? Like, I think if you had the mace, that would work as a perfectly effective melee weapon, and I think the uber mace would also work as its own thing. I think having the fist in there is just sort of an extra thing that doesn't really need to be there, especially when you have better things like the mace and the ultra mace there as well. Like, I think the fist is sort of a thing where you could have applied certain effects of the fist to the other two items, and I think that would have worked better for those items. I also think the way they're balanced is a little imbalanced, for lack of a better word. Like you saw, like throughout the game, I was going back to the mace because it would give ammo and armor. The other one would just do crazy damage. And I understand that it's sort of a mix of, okay, one of these is a little bit more defensive, one of these is full offense. I can understand the mentality behind those by differentiating the two in that way. But I do think that there's a certain element where when you make a game that has so many counter-offensive moves, I think leaning into the defense aspect of it makes sort of fits more with the aesthetic of the parry system and the timing system of all those effects, outside of just having a melee weapon that is just sort of the fuck you weapon and you just smack the shit out of the thing, right? I don't think that each melee weapon is bad in and of itself. I just think that they could have done a better job implementing the melee weapons and rebalancing them in a way that would have been more interesting. One thing in terms of progression the progression is one of the weirder elements to me, because I like the collection of gold around the map. Like, I like the collect-a-thon stuff in these games, and I think this game does a good job of maintaining that. The only problem is that sometimes you're not sure if you're supposed to be able to interact with a thing yet, right? Like that one level where I lost one of the gold pieces because I did not know how to get to that area, right? I couldn't figure it out. And based on what the game looks like, it looks like I should be able to walk through this barrier, walk forward, turn left, and it's there. And then I can choose to end that level. Instead, you walk forward, trigger the cutscene, and then the level's over, right? It's a very unintuitive sort of experience of, like, the gold's right there, right around that corner. Why can't I get to it before the cutscene? You know, it's one of the. I had a couple moments like that where I was like, "How the fuck are you supposed to get to this?" When it looks like the game is telling you that you can't get to it unless you progress, right? So there's a little bit of a imbalancing issue with the with the way progression affects item collection. I think that needs to be tweaked a little bit in future stuff. But one thing that I think a lot about one thing that I have thought about is sort of the reliance on the story for a lot of things. I think this game overall has the weakest story of 2016 and Eternal. And I think part of that comes from the fact that we see a lot of things in this game that feel semi-superfluous, and we get moments of just weird shit that seems inconsequential. You know what I mean? Like the whole level of the Doomslayer being like beaten and then becoming a zombie and then unbecoming a zombie within like a single mission, or like within like what, like 2 missions. It feels like an addition that didn't need to fucking be there, like at all. Like unless they're gonna expand on that, like in the DLC or something, it just seems like a really random sort of mission that didn't need to be there, and we didn't need to have happen, right? Like why did we need to get covered in goo and then turn into a zombie and then get covered in blood and then be not a zombie anymore? Like it's a really, like, what the fuck was that? Right? Like what was the actual point of doing that? This is one thing too, is I've mentioned it before, but I think that the 2 sort of additional modes of combat that we have, such as the Atlan combat and the Dragon combat, I think are sort of where the game sort of takes a big step back in terms of like having fun doing what you're doing. I don't think the Dragon combat is that bad. I just think it's kind of bare bones, and I think it needed a little bit more. I think it needed a little bit more nuance, and I think that it would have been cool to have some upgrades for that mode and the Atlan mode as we progress through them, right? Even though there's only a few missions where you do that shit, I think a couple of upgrades each time would have been cool. You know, like maybe pick 1 of 2 upgrades at the end of each level, and you get to customize, you know, the thing that you're controlling, right? Like increase the damage you deal, reduce damage taken, give yourself a unique weapon that you can use. You know, like there was opportunity to expand on those modes, and they feel incredibly bare bones by comparison to the rest of the game. Especially the Atlan combat. The Atlan combat is the most misused concept, I think, in the game in terms of the mechanics and the encounters. It is incredibly misused because what the Atlans should be is they should be these massive hulking machines that slowly beat the shit out of other giant, slow, big enemies, right? And I think the problem is that they didn't want to slow the pace of the game down, so they sacrificed the weight of those big mechs going against the big demons in order to keep the game pace up. But by doing that, you end up making the combat with the mechs feel like a really, really stripped down, sort of boring version of the base combat with the Slayer, right? The Atlan combat is easily the weakest sections of the game, just because that combat is very one note, you know, and it's way too fast. What I would have liked is if that combat was much slower, and everything was much tougher, and you did not regenerate health, right? I think that mode is a little too forgiving. I don't like the health regen for the dragon either. Like I think the health regen, which forgive me if there isn't regen and I'm just misremembering it, but it seems like I did not lose a lot of health in those modes, like at all, like ever. You know, unless I just radically fucked up over and over and over in a short span of time. Like it feels like you have to work to actually die. But it is just a thing where the Atlan combat had the potential to be sort of like a Pacific Rim style of combat, where everything was slow, lumbering, but whenever the hits would go through, you know, you could have made them feel heavy and like thick with the damage that they're causing, right? You know, like the typical thing is like the slower the weapon, the more oomph it needs when it impacts, right? And the game just did not have that. It just feels like we're doing the same shit that we are in the base game, but now we have a far smaller move set, and there's only like 4 mechanics involved. There's like dodging, comboing, special weapons, and then interacting with the environment. I mean, that's kind of it for the Atlan combat, and that's kind of a shame. You know, and I think the Atlan combat could have been really cool again if they leaned into the weight of it. You know, I think it'd be really cool if you're getting into a fight with a one of the Titans, right? And you're beating it down, and then you go to a cutscene, you know, of you beating the shit out of it, and then you do something, maybe you burst through its chest or something and then like rip it in half with an Atlan, right? Like I feel like they could have made the Atlan sections less video gamey and more cinematic, and I think that would actually help the sequences. Like if they made it where you were beating up the demon slowly, and then when you win the battle, you cut to a cutscene that where it shows you destroying the demon, you know, in some unique glory kill type of way, right? Like maybe you rip its arm off and then kick it down, like you kick it down on the ground as you rip its arm off, and then you smash its like arm into its face and then like crush its head with your foot or something, right? Like there was opportunity there to do something interesting rather than just punch it a lot and then have it just explode into flesh, right? Like it's just a mode that's really, really low bar by comparison to everything else in the game. All right, but okay, so here's two things before I might go to the bathroom while the credits continue because I don't know how long these are. But two more points. Going over the music, I've listened to the soundtrack a couple times over now outside of playing the game, and while I do like it, I have noticed that it is sort of a shift from the previous two game soundtracks, because the previous two game soundtracks had a certain intensity to them that this game has in pockets, right? The soundtrack to this game is not as intense as the previous ones. I still think it's intense. I think it's appropriate. It's just not the same sort of speed and tempo and the same level of aggression that the previous two were. Like the previous two soundtracks had a lot of fast-paced tracks, you know, of the ripping and the tearing, right? This game has a little bit more of a sort of like, not necessarily slow, but it's slower in parts. And I think its slowness, I think, does work for the game, given the Slayer's sort of parry system and how the Slayer himself is slower, but his gear makes him faster, right? And he can do more while being slower. But I think the music overall is still good, and I'd listen to it again. And in fact, there are several tracks in there that I actually quite like a lot. But I think it is a thing where the music is different. And I don't think it's really a difference because of Mick Gordon not being involved this time around. I think it's just a difference in the tone, because it sounds the same. Like it sounds like the same style of the sort of like ultra heavy metal with some like electronic elements and symphonic elements added here and there. I just think that this game is a little bit slower by comparison in terms of its like soundtrack. But I also think that kind of fits. So I think it sort of comes down to where you think the soundtracks are good or bad, right? Based on how intense you want them to be. There are definitely some good pieces in here, and I wouldn't call any of them bad from what I've heard. It's just sort of a thing where my favorite soundtrack is Doom Eternal because of the sheer amount of stuff in there. You know, because I got a rip of it off of YouTube, and there was about 8 hours worth of music across the game and its two DLC, right? That's a lot of fucking music, right? So, like, maybe it's just because there's it dwarfs the other two games in terms of just sheer number of minutes of music. But it is one of those things where if I had to pick soundtracks, I would probably go Eternal, then 2016, then this one. I'd still say they're all good, but I do think this has the least good soundtrack out of the three. All right, now, finally, I'm going to get to story real quick because I really have to use the bathroom. But, yeah, in terms of the story, I think the story is the weakest part of this game overall because there's, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of parts to it that feel relevant due to trying to be more cinematic as opposed to focused. And what I say by that is there are lots of sequences where we cut to bad guys doing bad shit, suspicious guys doing suspicious shit, and then Sentinel people doing Sentinel shit, and the Doomslayer's not there. And so it feels more like a movie than a video game where we're taking part in the actions of the Doomslayer, right? Which the other two games did a much better job with, of having the Doomslayer be involved in the cutscenes every time, as far as I remember, right? He's involved every single time, and it makes it feel like you're going through this journey with him, and it feels like you are in the pilot seat of the Slayer as he's ripping and tearing. When you do the cinematic thing, you kind of draw the person away where it feels like they're watching a movie more so than playing a video game where they are the character. It just creates another barrier between complete immersion that you typically get in video games. Or you typically get in good video games. I think that is a problem with the game. Also, the daughter being the key to everything is sort of a trope that was dead 5 years ago. She's not overbearing like some other sort of girl bosses were in other projects and things like that. I didn't think she was annoying, but it is kind of weird how she does things when realistically it probably should be the king. And also, she has to disappear at some point because she's not mentioned, as far as I remember, in Doom Eternal or 2016. So she absolutely has to die at some point, right? Just at some point, she needs to disappear from the story for the other games to make sense, because otherwise it's just going to be really weird having her just exist around here. But well, it turns out I don't actually have to go pee because the thing's over. So yeah, that's the end of the Dark Ages. Overall, I enjoy the game. I think combat-wise, I think it's better than 2016. Story-wise, I think it's... Well, here's how I would put it. I'm just going to break everything down. In terms of the combat, I think it's worse than Doom Eternal, but better than Doom 2016. In terms of the story, I think the story is worse than 2016 and Doom Eternal, because it has a bunch of extra shit in it that sort of slows the pace of the game. Where like Doom 2016 is ultra efficient in getting the story across, right? It's super light. Doom Eternal is a lot more heavy, but it focuses on the Slayer and keeps you focused. This game doesn't do either. It does a weird mix of like different shit where it just feels like you're sitting back watching a movie that's not involved with your character so much as the story your character takes part in, right? I think the story is the worst of the three. I don't think it's necessarily terrible, but I think it is a step down from the previous two games. I think it has the least good soundtrack of the three, but it's still good. And overall, I'd say that this game, I would probably replay this before I replay 2016 again, having replayed all three games relatively close. So right now, I would think it's better than 2016 in terms of what it does. In terms of the highs, I think are higher than Doom 2016, but the lows are lower than 2016, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about this game as of this point. I did enjoy it. I will be playing the DLC when it comes out, whenever that is, so there will be a stream of it. And yeah, that's going to be it for this stream. So I'd just like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys later.